here real quick. Excellent. So welcome to Office Hours for those here and also those that will be joining on YouTube later. This is March 7th, and we're here with Bob Newstadt, who is a BI expert. Aficionado is what I was going to say. I'm Ryan. I'm your host for these Office Hours. And today we're going to talk about Bob's work in business intelligence and analytics, which is extensive. So first of all, welcome, Bob. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And I'm wondering if you could give us, kind of a summary of your background, both what you've done in analytics and then sort of how you got your start in it.
Right. I can take you through that. Really pleasure to be here and talk about my favorite topic, me. Yeah, I can tell you a little about my career. It's kind of fairly traditional. I was a really computer science student at CMU back in the day, and had an internship at IBM. So I was a very serious student and learned a lot about computer science and was very eager to do things. But I moved to California after that and was a video game programmer. And where I really got my first taste of a lot of data was in a startup that speech recognition back in the 80s. And so this speech recognition is something I worked in a number of years, and it just was what they call data science now, taking a lot of data and training models and doing things. So there's nothing new to that. And sort of that's my career. I've been very, very early in many, many things. So so after that, I went to UCLA to study more about data and analytics and databases and AI. And so I got a master's degree there. But in the meantime, I've worked in a bunch of different verticals. Like you might be doing taxes this season. I worked at the company that made Macintax, that's now TurboTax for the Mac, and database applications. And I worked in financial technology and e-commerce and mobile apps. So I've really done quite a bit. And most of that time, since UCLA was working in data companies and financial technology, a data hub with market data that other systems use to do automatic trading, and it went to trading desks. So it had to be very accurate. And then e-commerce and mobile app companies are how much money are they making, and how is the product doing, and how are their customers liking it, and
which is important.
Are the systems still working? All these questions to ask. And so now I'm doing some consulting and helping a couple of companies do the most with their data.
Excellent. Mario is asking sort of which markets have you worked with? Fixed income, equities, futures, options?
Oh, yeah. In financial technology, I worked in the equities markets. Not only in the U.S. but in other countries. So it was equity trading. Okay.
Mario, I don't know if you have audio on, but it'd be interesting to hear if you have follow-up thoughts on that. You could chime in at any time. And he was asking kind of what platform were you working on? If that. Like what trading platform?
What trading platform? Yeah, the company was called Investment Technology Group. They had all their own technology, and my system supplied data to about 1,000 other systems, and some on people's trading desks. They run the deposit crossing system.
Okay. That's fantastic. So I read a little bit online that some people call you BI Bob. Is that right?
Yeah, they gave me that name.
That's a great nickname. Maybe you don't like it so much, but I think it kind of does like underscore that a lot of the work that are like skills we talk about in the course are kind of about using technology systems that exist. Excel, I think, is one that people use a little bit more. But if you're querying against a SQL database, or you've connected Tableau to some data source, there's some layer underneath. And so I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about kind of what business intelligence is, both for students that might be interested in doing that sort of thing, but also sort of what the average analyst should know about the data stack that they're working on.
Right. Yeah, well, off the top of my head, business intelligence is really I view it as getting the data to people so they can do their jobs, and often answering business questions. Who are top customers? Things like that. What products are making the most money? Where are users falling off on their onboarding journey? How many users are being retained? So depends on the kind of business, but most businesses have customers. Most businesses have some sort of product or service, and so it's really trying to understand the business from a bunch of different angles. Another way to view it, that I view business intelligence, it's a way to listen to the customers. Yes, they'll call the help desk, and there's maybe a few other ways. They'll put bad reviews in the app store or something, or good reviews. And but through BI, you can, if you've instrumented the events that they're doing, then you can understand what they see, what seems to be interesting to them, and what they're not getting, or maybe they don't like. So it's a way of running your business in a modern way. Definitely.
And I think one of the questions that I sent along before was that, oftentimes the work of an analyst will depend a lot on these systems. As you mentioned, BI is kind of getting data from source to sink, if you will, like source to usefulness. And do you have any, obviously a lot of the students actually in this course are looking to potentially change jobs, to join a company, to work in more of an analytical role. Do you have any recommendations or suggestions of how the stack influences the analyst's work, and how to kind of evaluate that as you're evaluating a company?
Right. Well, a couple ways you want to evaluate a company. One is on, what is their level of maturity? Are they just using Excel and filling it out and passing that around and reconciling that? Or are they using something in the cloud that's all integrated real time? So there's try to assess the maturity level. How many people are really using data, every day, that can't see themselves doing their job without data. So a lot of it's a culture thing. The stack, I don't put a lot of emphasis on a particular stack or not, because I think the most problems that BI is solving are very vanilla, very well known, have been addressed for decades and decades, and almost any system, any reasonable vendor will have a good solution. But if you're pushing the envelope, yes, you need to see if they're using the most impressive thing out there, Spark streaming with well, whatever it is today, in the cloud with machine learning on top of it and deep learning and all this stuff. And those are all great. They're kind of icing on the cake. I mean, got to make sure, like I said, in the maturity, that they collect the data, they process it, they store it somewhere, they have governance around it. And that's one reason I like analytics. It's it gets into everything, every part of the business, which is interesting to me, and it's very, very deep. There's always one answer, then there's three more questions, so it's bottomless.
Yeah, absolutely. Every question
will never be out of a challenge. Always more to look at and more data that just doesn't right.
Employment guarantee and interest guarantee as well. So Yuan asks, obviously you've worked in a lot of different industries. You've seen a lot of different types of companies, and he's wondering, could you comment if there's limitations sort of with regards to domain knowledge? So do you think that's something that has been difficult to do, like to apply analytics in many different areas? Just for background, and some of the previous calls we've talked about, people will talk about the importance of having domain knowledge. And, I've kind of espoused the view that, it's advantageous to work in health or to work in, you know, education or something to get to know that. Like, you've worked all over the place. How has that impacted your work?
Well, I think that I bring a lot of different perspectives to a new situation, so I can pick and choose the best. But I'd say, as far as getting hired, yes, some companies in health would prefer to have someone who has all that experience of coding and all the partnerships and regulations of healthcare. It certainly has its own jargon, and it would be advantageous to be a subject matter expert. Same with really all the other fields. At least a lot of it is communication, so you need to be able to communicate to the business people, or the people consuming it. You know, you have to know what they're interested in, know what it means. But that being said, it might take 6 months or a year to feel comfortable knowing a new area, but it isn't a showstopper. Well, I mean, once you get your foot in the door, you'll learn it like everyone else does.
Yeah. No, thank you for that perspective. That's great. There's a lot of people thinking about the future of their careers. So that actually is a good segue, you know, talking about the importance of communication and the key part of that. Yuan also asked about buy-in. So if you step in, especially as a consultant, but also, you know, as a full-time analyst at a place, how do you get the buy-in of leadership to the point where they'll trust you and your results?
Okay. Yeah, that's very important. You really can't go in there as an analyst or consultant and sit in the back room and have a big impact. You have to have the impact through everyone else in the business who already has a full-time job and maybe doesn't even think they need data, or doesn't want to see data, or has a way of doing their job with the way they've done it for a long time. So there's a couple techniques. One is to look for small wins and gain confidence, so you can show people, hey, I was able to spend a week or two and make this improvement, and I analyze this data, and I helped so and so make this decision, and so on. And then once you do that enough and publicize it, then people say, oh, maybe there's something to that, and people will start coming to you. The other thing is, it does help to have support from above, and have someone with the vision that says, hey, I want to take this company. And a lot of companies are going through this. They're going through a modernization phase, or going all digital from a company that wasn't digital. And if you can get on that bandwagon, or really apply your analytics to the thing that's important for them, you know, ask, what are your goals in the next 90 days? And apply your analytics to one of those things, make those things a success with analytics. And then you'll be helping them do what they need to do, because analytics isn't an end unto itself for most companies.
Yeah, that's excellent. You remind me of a conversation I had with Daphne Kohler while working at Coursera. One of the most persuasive people I know. I mean, she got 100 universities to sign up to give their classes away for free online. And I asked her, how can you persuade? And she said, you really have to listen. Like, that's the first step. Most people are so eager with what they want to say, will not even hear. So
Good point.
That's really cool to hear. I would love to also kind of dive into some of the work that you've done for different companies. So you've seen obviously a lot of different challenges, analytical challenges that different companies have had. Is there one, or are there a couple that you see as being recurring, like maybe vis-a-vis the case studies, like there's lifetime value and segmentation, and maybe do you want to pick one that we can focus in on and see kind of how you do this?
Well, there's a bunch of questions there. I guess there is some commonalities. A lot depends on, I mean, companies like to compare themselves to others, and investors like to compare similar companies. So when there's some industry standard metrics, like maybe user retention, or even revenue, or other, you know, the amount of time someone spends on your app, or whatever it is. So the investors will tell you what they want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be the analyst's role to say, oh, okay, let's define what that is to make sure everyone's in agreement, and then we'll go and measure it and instrument it and analyze it and look at the dimensionality of it.
Mm-hmm.
By dimensionality, I mean they usually just don't want a single number
Mm-hmm.
to come out of any of these things, even if it's the number of users. They want the number of users who are on each app each day.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's dimensions, how many users from each country. So there's a lot, it doesn't come out with one number, it comes down with the whole breakdown of dimensions. And that's important to get right too.
Yeah.
So yeah, those industries have common needs. And I'm sure it varies from industry to industry.
Yeah.
But I think you also asked, is there some mistake that they made? Was that one of your questions?
Well, I guess I'm just kind of curious if there's like a handy example from a recent project that you've worked on where you thought through it in an analytical fashion.
Oh, well, I'd say one thing, a lot of it has to do with the mindset of, or maybe it has to do whether they agree with my mindset of
Mm-hmm.
how a analytics program should be run, and it should be viewed as an investment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it can deliver some short-term results, and that's probably why they bring anyone in to address something short-term. But
Mm-hmm.
the real value is from having a plan in place. What do you want? How do you want to run your business with data? You want to be a person with just an opinion or a person with data,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's important to view it as an investment, and then you can step back and say, well, maybe I won't do all short-term tasks, even though that seems good. Maybe I'll do some others that will benefit us long-term.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to get the mindset right, and for companies that aren't used to it, that's maybe the biggest barrier. And I'd say you try to pick a few people who you can win over and focus on them and meet their needs. And when you win them over, other people will get the idea that there's something going on.
Yeah. I kind of like that idea. You have the folks who are both excited and like willing to play by the kind of rules, right? To not apply results that aren't significant, to not go on fishing expeditions for results, and work with those people. There's an ante to getting analytics,
There is a plus. The analytics people need the feedback from the business people. This is helpful. This isn't helpful. This fits I'm making a decision every week, so this monthly report doesn't do me any good. So yes, they have to fit into the decision cycle of the business. But I've really done so many things. Let's see. I could talk about some are kind of hard to explain, but well, let me talk about a couple. One is I was an e-commerce company that had server farms in various co-location facilities around the country, and I was analyzing some new data that also had what server the data was from and what co-location facility, and we thought we were going to use that for just kind of seeing how many machines were down or misbehaving every once in a while. That was our intention with that data. But as that data came in, I started looking at it. Pardon me. And I observed that one data center was just making a significant 20% less revenue than another data center, and it was across almost all the machines, and so it didn't really make much sense to me. They're on the same code base, serving the same business functions. Yeah, and so I asked around. I said, "What do you think can explain this?" And I finally asked the right person, who said, "Oh, those machines, that one data center are older. They really need to be replaced." So I brought this up to the CIO, and he immediately got funding to replace all those machines.
Wow.
so it had a really big impact, just this
Mhm.
just looking at the data in a way that no one asked me to, and just making this observation. So when I couldn't have done it by myself, I wouldn't have had a guess.
Mhm.
But they knew they wanted to replace those machines, but they had put it off because they didn't have the hard data to say, hey, we're
Yeah.
losing 20% of our revenue because those machines are slower responding and people don't want to wait.
Yeah. That's a really cool example of tying sort of the qualitative and the quantitative, like root cause, which is the second case study.
Right, and kind of hard to find
Mhm.
sometimes. So another thing I did that I think shows something interesting is
Mhm.
we're spending money. I was working for a mobile app company. We were spending some marketing money to promote the app and drive it up the charts and get more downloads. So, but the problem is, from the app stores, we can only understand after the day is over how many downloads there were after the whole day was done.
Mm.
But we're spending our marketing dollars during the day at different
Mm.
times, and
Yeah.
we don't know whether to spend more or less, or we're overspending or what. So
So at the end of the day, you just get one number for this is all the signups you got today. You don't know what hour. You don't know.
you know very little about it, because the app stores, it's not your customer. It's
Yeah.
Apple, Google's customer,
Hmm.
about when they did it, what other apps they have. You know very little about them.
Interesting.
Um, so we wanted to optimize our marketing spend based
Hmm.
on the downloads, but we're only getting that number once a day.
Hmm.
So we figured out a proxy for our downloads were the number of people who signed up for the app after they downloaded it. So maybe 95% would sign up after they downloaded it, but it was mostly, and they would pretty much download it and sign up right away. So we could pretty much track downloads by this proxy of registrations, basically,
Hmm.
in the app, which is our data on our side,
Hmm.
not in the app store. So, and what we could do is aggregate that data every half an hour, every hour or something.
Hmm.
So we did that and supplied it to marketing. And when it was at a certain level, they knew they had to increase marketing spend. And when it was above that level, they knew they could decrease or not put as much marketing spend.
Interesting. So you kind of redefine the metric from being downloads are the important thing to like registration sign up is actually the metric we should be responding to because it's further down the
something we
funnel.
can measure with less latency.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So that was a pretty neat switcheroo there. And
Tons.
very effective.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
So I think the lesson is often
Mhm.
you just have a proxy for, maybe even all the time, you have a proxy for what you want. You'd rather know a lot more about the customer, but all you have is their name.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that the lack of data problem, it is quite real. And there are a couple of, in the case studies, I say this for students, examples of times, and you have to decide which piece of data goes where and what piece of data you'll draw on. Maybe some things are relevant, some others aren't. Anyway, Mario asked a really, really good question. Two really good questions. Let's start with the first one. How does the job market with financial services in the financial services industry look like nowadays compared to recent years or before the advent of data science?
Pardon me. I'm not a real expert on the job market, but one thing about the financial industry is they do very advanced work and keep it to themselves because it's a competitive advantage. So you don't know what they're doing, or I don't. But I assume they're doing more and more automatic trading and data science these days, like everyone else, and it's getting more and more competitive.
Yeah. I too have heard that basically a lot of the actual analysis being replaced by algorithms as a much smaller set of teams that are creating algorithms they're doing things that a lot of people used to do. A lot of machine learning.
It's always been very automated, but yes, there must be. There's a lot of consumer wealth management startups that are using data science instead of an advisor.
Okay, so follow-up question, a little more broadly, what industries, what business sectors have the greatest demand for data scientists or analysts in your experience?
I guess I really don't have a good feel for the market, but it just seems like every company is
Yes.
jumping on this data
Yep.
bandwagon. Again, I was, very early to a lot of these trends in the industry, but uh, basically, even when the economy is going down or businesses are going bad, they think they can save money.
Hmm.
So in an up economy, it's good. They want to grow. In a down economy, they want to cut costs
Hmm.
and really understand their business and understand their customers. So I think there is an bottomless demand for analytics. Just like someone said to me, there's a bottomless demand for accounting.
Hmm.
That of course you want to know where every penny goes. If you could,
Hmm.
at some point you'll decide it isn't worth it. But you'd love to know if every expense is proper and what are the competitors offering? Are you
Yeah.
getting the best deal? And where in the market can you sell to? So analytics, there's just no end to the demand of it, and
Hmm.
I see it pick up in all businesses, especially, like I said, older businesses that are looking to become digital or more relevant. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Everywhere. And I think it's also worth mentioning that another good question to think about, and we don't have to just now, is where can you go to work to pick up on, a deep knowledge in some of the trends in data analytics. So this course covers, you know, how to use the tools and some of the ways of thinking, but it's also worth mentioning that there's no substitute for years of experience. And so that's sort of a paired question, which I'll leave it as a rhetorical question, but
okay.
something to think about for students. Um, Last quick question. Yuan asks, how do you differentiate BI versus data analytics?
Oh, yeah. Um, um, yeah, BI is maybe an older term nowadays. Business intelligence, it used to be just reporting. Then it was business intelligence, and it's gone through a lot of different names. And then it was
Hmm.
big data, and now it's science. So the name changes, but to me, I guess when people say business intelligence, they're talking about reportings and drill down kind of reports, and maybe somewhat static, um, and tables of numbers, where analytics gets more into visualizations and one-off analysis, although it can be automated, and more self-service analytics. That's where
Hmm.
the world is going. So not
Yeah.
only are we analysts and trying to be good at that, but the industry, to sell more sell more pieces of software, are trying to make everyone into an analyst, and they're
Hmm.
doing a pretty good job at it.
Yeah.
And
Very
that's
true.
very, very important. It means that the people with more analytic skills can apply their talent to harder problems, and the people who don't want to wait for the analyst's time can do it themselves.
Hmm.
So I'm all behind the self-service approach.
Yes. Fantastic. Well, we're out of time, but I wanted to ask if you have any parting thoughts and guiding wisdom for students who might be interested in
Um,
pursuing a career.
yeah, for the students, um, yeah, if you go to any meetups, and I'd encourage you to get out there, get uncomfortable, and talk to people, ask what they do and what kind of data, ask all these questions, and really find out what an analyst does. It's probably different at every company.
Hmm.
Um, and they'll always at the end of those meetups say, and by the way, we're hiring. Well, I don't know who they're hiring, but that's a good question to ask. Like, who exactly are you hiring? What are you
Hmm.
looking for? And you can start building a relationship with those teams, and maybe taking courses that are or getting informed about what's important to those companies. And I'd say when you're starting out, you seem you might have the opinion that, oh, you're not competitive out there because you don't have these years of experience or some skill that they're asking for.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no one knows everything, one. And the other thing is you do have some strengths that, a more experienced person doesn't. Like you might be willing to work for less. That's a huge strength. You might be, you might want to work on something that's new to you that is old hat for someone that they don't want to, someone with more experience they don't want to work on. Just your eagerness and that you have new skills is an advantage. So don't think you don't have any strengths. You have strengths, and play to those strengths. Maybe one other thing I'd like to add is it's important to know what you want and think hard about what you want, like what kind of job, who you want to work with, and then not only think about it and realize it for yourself, but ask for it. So ask for what you want. It's really an important thing to learn, and you might get it.
Fantastic. Thank you. It's been a great interview. Bob Newstadt, everybody. You follow him on LinkedIn. You can see some cool analyses. Thanks, Bob, so much for your time. And
thank you. Thank everyone for watching.
Next week. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.